Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Johnson and I am one of 13 food rescue coordinators here at Lovin Spoonfuls. I operate out of the greater Boston area, getting food in the morning from local farms and grocery stores and distributing it to other nonprofits in the Boston area in the afternoons, such as food pantries, soup kitchens, and school programs. I wanted to say a huge thank you to all of the chefs, Charlie, Dora, Amy, and Jesse, and another huge thanks to our sponsor, Bank of America. And a huge thanks to all of you guys for participating and making sure the food is kept out of the landfills and on people's plates. Enjoy!
Good evening. I'm Mihal Chamberlain, Massachusetts President for Bank of America, and I'm thrilled to virtually be here with you for Lovin Spoonfuls Chef-a-Thon. At Bank of America, we are committed to helping advance economic mobility, enabling individuals to achieve their goals and contribute to economic growth. A key way we help build a more sustainable future. We deliver on this commitment by developing partnerships with organizations that help address issues related to workforce readiness, community development, and basic needs, like hunger relief, which is why we're thrilled to work with Lovin Spoonfuls on this year's Chef-a-Thon. I want to thank Ashley and the entire Lovin Spoonfuls team for working around the clock to rescue and distribute healthy, fresh food that would otherwise go to waste to the communities across Massachusetts who need it most. Cheers to our long-standing partnership and continued success. Now let's enjoy tonight's demo.
Welcome to my kitchen. My name is Pheegan Chef. I'm a local recipe developer and chef in the greater Boston area. So we have a really great recipe for you prepared. It's one of my favorites. It's super easy. You'll find that some really simple, humble ingredients will come together to make what I call a quick curry. However, technically it's called a coconut chickpea curry. So we'll be working with a number of ingredients, but I just want you to sit back and enjoy. We will certainly provide some instructions for you if you want to really dig into it, but we're going to get started. So the first thing we're going to do is work on our veggies. So every dish is really about building flavors. And as a chef, that's kind of the first thing we look for, is just that base. Here, we're going to be working with onions, white onion. We'll be working with ginger for our veggie, as well as sweet potato and tomato. So we're going to get started with the easiest one, which is our tomato. And for this recipe, you can use any tomato. I tend to use the plum tomato because they're always in season. You can find them typically in your grocery, but certainly you can use whatever tomato that you like. This is really what's going to give us some acid base to our dish. So with the tomato, you're just going to dice it. We don't want that part at the top just because it can be a little unsatisfactory to eat in the final dish. But we're going to do what we call a crude chop here, which is you just chop it in half, chop it again, and then give it a slice the long way. Alrighty, then we'll do that again, and we'll give that a slice. And then you can go ahead and move it into your bowl. So one thing that I always like to have handy is the bowl that you'll be prepping your ingredients in, as well as a bowl that I like to put all of my extras in. So what's really great is my extras, meaning not necessarily trash or rubber bands or things that you can recycle, but food extra or your waste. Because this is something you can either throw in your garden, which is one thing that I like to do. If you don't have too many odds and ends, you can actually turn it into a really pretty cool sauce or salsa. So the next ingredient we'll be working with is our onion. There's a lot of different ways to chop an onion. I find that the safest way is to first get rid of the top and the bottom, which is pretty straightforward. So you'll give that a chop, and you will give the bottom a chop, and that can go right into your bowl there. And then a little slice, and we'll get this guy, the first layer. If the first two layers come off, that's totally fine. But as long as you get to a nice even layer, you're good to go. So we're good here. Now, here's a trick, because we need our fingers to cook. So the first thing you want to do is just slice this right in half. Really simple. You can put one half to the side, use the flat edge on the board, and cut some moon shapes, okay? When you get to the end, where your fingers, the blade gets pretty close, you can just put that aside. And you stack your guys right here, your little half moons like so, and just dice down, and you will have perfect dice right there. And you can just move that over to your bowl. Now with this guy, just go ahead and dice, same way. These pieces will be a little bigger, but not noticeable. And more importantly, everybody's safe at the end of the meal. All right, so next we're gonna start with our ginger. Ginger here is very important. It's one of the staples for just about any curry, no matter what region the curry is from. So I will just cut as much of the skin off as I can, just running my blade across each side, making a flat side, and then cutting again and again until I have sort of a piece that's all the way skinless, or mostly skinless, and then the hard bit on either side. So you have a good piece to work with. And then again, after, I'll be fishing this out because this is really good for tea. It's a really nice way to reuse that ingredient. And then the ginger here, you're just gonna cut, again, into these squares, pretty thin, or as thin as you can get them. Here it's really just about the flavor that they lend. It is a very fragrant ingredient. However, you can lose its flavor if you put it in too soon or too late, but what I like to do is add it when the onions go in so that all of the flavors really incorporate and the onion takes on some of that ginger flavor. So the next thing we'll do is a jalapeno. Now, jalapenos I know can be scary, but the skin or the actual part that we would use is the outer side. We're gonna leave the seeds. You can certainly add the seeds if you want to. It really just depends on what your heat level is. So you'll just take the top off. We're gonna use half, and really that's just about flavor. So this one we'll actually put aside because we can go ahead and use that again. And you'll just run your knife across and take the seeds out. If you don't want to use your knife, you can just pick them out or use a spoon to pick them out. They'll come out pretty easily. And give it a quick dice. Losing our board here. Quick dice. And again, that's a crude chop, so just go ahead and get it chopped up and put that in your bowl. And that should be good to go. So a secret ingredient that I often use in my curries to really add some sweetness, there's a lot of ways you can do that. One, we're using coconut milk, which is a really great way to use to sweeten your curry. And one of the reasons why you have to is because with all the flavors and the spices in this dish, the sweetness really brings them all together. It gives them sort of a purpose, I like to say. So I like to use dates, which is, they're really sweet, they melt down, they just sort of combine inside the dish and with the sauce and really give you something unique when you bite into it and you actually find one. And this one, you're just going to cut them in half. You can find dates probably in your snack aisles. In most grocery stores, you can find them there. Organic, if you can certainly find them. Local, always, if you can find them, or at least locally manufactured would be great. However, you're just going to use probably about 8 to 10 of them. And you're gonna just give them a chop. They don't have to be even. But they'll melt down and really add something very special and unique. Again, going back to those flavors and really building on flavors. For me, when I create recipes, I really think about the foundation first. What am I trying to say with this recipe? And that might look like pulling from different traditions, pulling from different culinary traditions. And oftentimes I find that it's sort of a mishmash of a lot of different places and cultures. And I find little things that really help and lend to make something that's altogether unique. And dates is definitely one thing that I have found and used and always wows the guest a little bit. Okay, so that's pretty much it for our main ingredients. We're going to add garlic, but we're not going to chop it. So for a while, we were into peeling these and dicing them and crushing and slicing and mincing, but what we've sort of learned, meaning a lot of cooks and chefs over the years, is that garlic really lends its flavor without really having to do much to it. It's similar to rosemary in that way. As long as you crack the little case, you will get all the flavor. And as long as you remove the outside or the husk of the garlic, the thinner wrapper, which is the one you're usually fighting with, is actually turns out to be really tender, so you don't have to discard it. So in this recipe, we're going to use 4 of them, and we'll do that to all of them. And basically all that I'm doing is putting it on my board under my knife and giving it a little elbow grease to smush that baby down. All right, so we got 4 of those. We can put that aside. So I want to talk a little bit about the other seasonings that we'll be using, which is tomato paste. We'll be using that. Again, that's just to balance out and really add some acidity to our recipe. We'll also be using cumin and coriander, which is pretty traditional in at least East Asian curries. And then we'll be using a yellow curry, which you can either get it as a paste or as a powder. I have it a powder here. And that's really to lend the color, sort of that traditional yellow color that you're looking for. And that's a mixture of turmeric and other things that really just balance out the rest of the dish. And then we have chickpeas. And you'll need probably about 2 cans or 2.5 cups of chickpeas for this recipe. The last thing that we will be prepping is our sweet potato. And the sweet potato, again, adds in a little bit of a base and a way to thicken it, or to thicken your curry if you like it to be thicker. This is really optional. It's really up to you. But I like to use about half a potato. So we'll cut one like this. It's a beautiful color inside. And I kind of treat this the same way that I treat the ginger, because it's a little bit easier. Things that are round tend to roll around on your board. So it's really good to try to get a flat base first, or what I call an anchor. It just makes it a lot easier to manage when you're cutting your ingredients. So you'll do the same thing. You'll go on each side. You'll run your blade. And, with a little practice, you take a little bit less off each time. And they're not always perfectly shaped, but you can get pretty much a lot of the skin off. All right, so we have a nice flat base to work with. And here, what's really great is now that you have an anchor, you can cut sheets, which is really safe and easy to do. I like to cook with my children a lot, so I really try to find ways that make it very safe to have them help. And using the anchoring technique and using shapes that are easier to work with, like sheets and squares, makes that really easy to do. So what you'll do, you can stack them if you want, but you're just, with each sheet, you'll cut it in half again, and then just cross over. And just go ahead and process the rest of these guys. And you don't need a lot because it is, like I said, a thickener. So you'll hope that they'll break down by the end, much like the dates. You probably won't see a full square sweet potato there, but you'll definitely get those flavors, and you'll certainly get the thickness from there. So that is basically what we're going to do as far as our ingredients. Next, we're going to take this over to our range and get these into a pan. You can use whatever oil that you like. Here I have corn oil, but you can certainly use grapeseed or whatever oil you feel comfortable with using. Once the oil gets to warm in your pot, we're going to start with our onions and our garlic. So those onions that you chopped earlier, I just went ahead and mixed them together. You have your ginger pieces in there, your garlic is in there, your bits of jalapeno are in there, and you're just going to go ahead, ooh, the sound. You're going to go ahead and throw that in. If for some reason you know, a tomato goes in early or something like that, it's totally fine. They're all going to live happily in there together. So just go ahead and give that a toss. And what we're looking for here, definitely control your heat. We don't want to burn the ingredients. We want the onions to turn translucent. We want really the flavors to marry together. As I mentioned with the ginger, we want the ginger to incorporate all of the oil and the onions, and we want the ingredients to be able to live happily, but without burning them. If a few pieces do get burned, that's totally fine. You know, with different oils, if you're using an olive oil or even if you use like a butter instead, you might have some of that browning. That's totally okay. And for the most part, you're going to want to keep an eye on this part and really just move everything together. There's a saying that we say, at least in my household, which is called seasoning the pan. And that's essentially what we're doing. We're making sure that all of those flavors are really incorporating, and we have a nice base for the rest of our dish. So in about another minute or so, our onions will begin to get translucent. And what I mean by translucent is they turn from the sort of opaque white to a glossy white, almost as if they were going to turn clear. And we're almost there. The garlic is going to stay whole, so you're not looking for that. By the end of this, by the end of your cooking here, your curry, they'll be pretty soft and edible, or they can just be picked out, whichever one works. By that time, a lot of the flavor would have incorporated. So once we have all of our onions, which they're looking good, the next thing we're going to do is add those beautiful tomatoes that we chopped earlier. And so we're almost there. I think we're ready for this guy. And again, you want your heat to be on medium. We will turn it down a little bit later, but right now, really that fast, hot heat is what's going to release a lot of those flavors. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go in with our tomatoes. Again, crude chop. These will sort of melt down. So you'll just throw that in there like so and give that a toss. Like the garlic, here at this point, they will begin to soften. However, really as our curry sort of cooks in that later stage is when it will begin to really sort of disappear into the dish. All right. So this looks good. This smells really amazing already. And you'll give that a toss. Okay. So here is an interesting point. So what we'll do now is we'll actually season. We're going to add the seasons before we add the chickpeas. And that's to really sort of incorporate, again, working on those base, building those flavors. Our seasonings are very delicate, so we don't want them to disappear throughout the dish. So I find that if we put them in at this point, sort of that first layer, they carry out throughout the entire dish. So this is looking really good. Your tomatoes begin, the seeds will sort of lend themselves to the sauce. Looks amazing. So we'll go ahead and get we have all of our seasonings here. Now, the tomato paste will be just a moment. That will sort of be our glue. But we're going to start with our cumin. With your cumin, you're going to want about 1.5 teaspoons. And that goes right in. Your coriander, you'll use a little bit more. Smells really amazing. It has that distinctive sort of really earthy flavor. Again, sometimes they're in powder, but if they're sort of look like little seeds or pods, those are fine too. They're all totally fine. You're going to want about 1.5 tablespoons of that. That will go in. And you'll give that a mix. Okay. All right, then we will use our yellow curry. So you're going to put half in now, and you're going to reserve the other half for after. So you'll toss in half. now, and then we'll go ahead and put that in just before our dish is ready. So we got a lot of amazing things happening in here. The flavors, you'll see that the onions and the sweetness and sort of the sugars are starting to stick together. The smell is really good. You kind of got to work quickly now, because now that you have the seasonings, they're very delicate, so they will begin to burn with them in there. Next thing we'll want to do is add our chickpeas. Again, you want these to be drained, low sodium if you can help it. I always think it's a good rule of thumb that you can always add your salt at the end, and with using so many amazing seasonings, you probably won't need it at the end. So you'll put all of your chickpeas there, and you'll toss them around, all in that flavor. Yum. Okay. And then, looks really good, smells really amazing. Don't be afraid of the sound. I mean, you have a lot of, the sugars again are starting to be activated, so nothing's burning, nothing should burn, but again, just watch your heat as you go. You can always turn it down. So the next thing we'll do is add our paste. This is tomato paste. It's about, probably about 3 tablespoons of tomato paste. You want to go in there and just add as much as you can get in. A smaller cup. But you'll want to incorporate that in, and that will begin to melt and sort of cover all of your chickpeas. All right, and the purpose of the tomato paste is to sort of glue all of those flavors to the chickpeas, to make sure that, with every bite you really get something that's really, really tasty and yummy. Okay, so at this point, the sweet potatoes that we chopped earlier, after you chop them, you would sort of on the side boil them or parboil them so they were just a little bit tender, and you would add them now at this point. They would go right in, and you would just mix them in here at this point. Also, if you're going to be using rice, this pairs really well with rice if you want to, or any sort of bread if you'd like to. So you'll go ahead and prepare your rice how you like. Usually long grain rice is works really well, but whatever rice that you have on hand or in your pantry, you can certainly use. And what's really great with rice, don't worry about making too much or too little. It's another one of those ingredients that after you cook it, you store it, you can turn it into fried rice or something else later in the week. So the next step we're going to do is our dates. So the dates, we chopped these up earlier. I was telling you that the dates really add a really nice sweetness and a little surprise for the person that's eating it, or your guest or your family or whoever you'll be enjoying this with. And you can give those a mix as well. And those you just forget about. They'll be in there. Guaranteed almost every time that I've served this, someone has, said, oh wow, like what was that? What was that bit that I just got? It tasted really amazing. So those will just melt away and really add some really nice complexity and, a little touch to this very comforting dish. Now we'll add our coconut milk. Coconut milk, you can pretty much use any one that you're comfortable with using. As long as it says milk and not cream, because the creams are sweet and they're traditionally used for our desserts. And you'll see that the sound, that sizzling kind of goes away. Now you have the liquid in there, and at this point you're going to want to turn down your heat just a bit. All right, and you want to just leave it at a simmer. And this will just give a chance for the chickpeas to soften a little bit more, your dates to soften a little bit more, and for those flavors to really just mix and marry together really nicely. So this curry is really great for a weekday dish. It's also something that you can bring if you had to potluck or needed to make or feed a couple of people on one dish. It lasts really well, so as long as you cool and chill, it's something that you can make ahead of time, say for week prep or meal prep throughout the week, and freeze into small containers. It's really, really comforting, and a dish that you can use often. You can put it in your arsenal. It will always, always be good. Trust me. All right, so at this point, we are going to put a cap on here, or the lid. And you'll just want to cover that up on low heat for about 10 to 15 minutes. And just check every 1 to 2 minutes just to make sure that your sauce hasn't completely dried out. You do want to have some sauce there. However, there's no mistakes. If it does dry out, you can certainly add a little more coconut milk. And if you've used all your coconut milk, you can certainly use a broth, a vegetable broth, or even water. That would be totally fine. And as you can see, you've got little bubbles, and that's what you're looking for. You're looking for really small bubbles, not boiling, but simmering. After just a few more moments, we'll give this a cover. Now's a good time because you're just about halfway for this to be finished. Is to start your rice if you're going to. That way you'll have everything ready together to plate. In another moment, when I open this, we're going to add the rest of our curry powder. But this is also a really good time to taste. So I like to say, best thing, you have to taste what you serve. This is a good time to taste and really adjust any of those flavors that are either need more of. At this point, we can't go backwards, but we can certainly, like I said, use different tricks, as in adding more coconut. When it comes to when you're cooking and you really have these bases down, you're in control. So you can do whatever it is that makes you feel comfortable and makes you feel like you're really serving a dish that you're really, really proud of. So we're going to go ahead and taste. And the rule to tasting is you give it a good spin, right? Good spin, and get a good piece in there. Now, I don't advise getting the chickpeas, otherwise you might not have taste buds to taste it. But, very good. Very, very good. We did it. This tastes amazing. All right. We'll add a little more of our curry powder, just a bit, because our flavors are there for sure. Okay, we'll spin that in. And we're almost at the perfect sweetness. You're really looking for a balance of the earthy flavors, and then you feel that some of the acidity coming from the tomatoes. And now that the dates are sort of melting down, you're getting like a sweetness at the end, especially with the coconut. So it's really just like a really amazing vibe happening in this pot right now. So we're getting some big bubbles. So again, we can just adjust our heat. We're going to turn that down. Okay. And by using our lid, that really allows us to control what's going on in here, creating the steam, the sauce won't evaporate so quickly. So we're just about done here and ready to plate up. I just want to thank you guys so much for coming to my kitchen and allowing me to serve something to you that is one of my favorites. Thank you also for joining me in supporting Lovin Spoonfuls. So I really appreciate it, and thank you so much.
Chef, that was awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Standing so close to watching you cook, I could not wait to take a bite. That was really, really awesome. Thank you so much for doing that. What started you on your vegan journey? I mean, I am a meat eater and I love to eat plant-based too. That is something I would eat any night of the week over a burger or a steak.
Right? It's a crowd pleaser. And that's exactly why I often suggest curries, especially when people are just getting into vegan.
Yeah.
Or being vegan. But yeah, so I started a couple of years back trying to find balance in my life, in my diet. I was coming from a career that was very high impact and constantly on the move. So I knew that I needed to make a change. And I really started doing it kind of as like a novelist, just kind of personally trying to figure out what recipes I can incorporate and how I can sort of substitute and make better choices for my body. And over time, it's just kind of grown. I used to make all kinds of traditional dishes with, for meat eaters or flexitarians, as I like to call them. And now it really helps me to create recipes that everyone loves because I have that technical sort of training in traditional dishes. It helps me to translate and really make something that you're not feeling like you're missing anything, right? So yeah, that's how I got started, and it's definitely a pursuit of passion for me. And anytime I get a chance to share like this, it's amazing. So thank you.
Yeah, of course, and I can tell it's a labor of love and a pursuit of passion. That was clear. So what does it look like going forward? How do people get in touch with you? What does it look like for folks who want you to either come cook for them, teach them how to cook? What's sort of the future of your world here?
Yeah, so you can find me. I'm on social media. I'm on Instagram as the Pheegan Chef, or hashtag It's a Heart Thing.
I love that.
Yes, I do everything from the heart. So you can find me there. You can also, I have my email and contact there, but I'm also working on something that has been very special. My vegan chicken is actually out now. You guys can find it either by finding me on Instagram or my website. I'm so excited. It's a crispy fried chicken jackfruit that you can eat the whole thing. So
Delicious.
I'm really excited about that. Spent all last year sort of building that up and getting it ready. So very exciting. I hope you guys all love it.
Awesome. What's it called?
Sassy Jack Chicken.
Oh, what a great name.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
Chef, thank you so much for sharing this meal with us. This was so awesome, and I so appreciate you being here.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you for all that you do in our communities and giving me a chance to share what I do.
Well,
Thank you.
I can't wait to work together again.
Definitely.
Awesome.
Definitely.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for tonight's Chef-a-Thon. I want to thank Bank of America for really showing up as a sponsor for not just tonight's event, but for the series as a whole. Bank of America has been tremendous supporters of our work in the community and as we've made the transition here to virtual events. COVID has been so challenging for everybody, and for us, it's been really important that we make sure that we stay connected to you and find different ways to engage our community and make sure that everyone knows what's happening within Lovin Spoonfuls, and making sure that we share this platform with our friends in hospitality, because we know that it's been equally as challenging for them. Chef-a-Thon has given us a chance to really help support much needed funds for our food rescue operations. It also has given us a chance to engage and spotlight some of our favorite chefs and restaurants in the community. Hospitality has been so generous with Lovin Spoonfuls, and really all nonprofits. And here, while they're struggling, it's important for us to make sure that we try to support them as much as possible. So I hope tonight you either got a new recipe or a new restaurant to try. Whether or not you're dining in or taking out, let's make sure that we work together to heal hospitality and make sure that we are supporting those businesses that we know and love and that keep our communities together. Thanks to Chef Charlie, Chef Dora, Chefs Amy and Jesse for participating in this series of Chef-a-Thon. Thank you for joining us tonight. Whether or not this is your first Chef-a-Thon or you've joined us for all of them, your support is so important to our work. Keep in mind, $1 rescues 3 pounds of food, which feeds one person for a day. It's a busy fall at Lovin Spoonfuls. Follow us on social media to stay up to date on workshops, events, and volunteer opportunities and everything we have going on. And finally, I am so excited for Pregame, which is happening later this fall. Please check our website for updates. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are so grateful for your support.